shadows. The entire Old Testament points towards grace, points towards Jesus and the necessity of humankind, mankind, to have grace. God wants us to have grace. So he exemplifies it. He samples it out through the lives of Old Testament saints like Ruth, who was a Gentile, who was a Moabite. And she is Naomi's daughter-in-law. Her husband has died. Her other daughter-in-law, Ophrah, her husband has died. And Naomi's own husband has died. What a tragic story. When you read the book of Ruth, you see that Naomi's husband died. Her two daughter-in-laws, both sons have died. And her daughter-in-laws are young. And Naomi's like, hey, you know what? You guys go back to Moab. They were in Moab at the time. She's, I'm going to go back to Israel, go back to Jerusalem. I'm going home to my own land now. I got nothing to do here. And they moved because of a famine, because of economic distress. They moved into this territory in Moab, the big city, hoping to prosper, and now all the men are dead. And so these women in that culture, in that time, didn't have any means to live. And so you know the story. Ophrah goes back to the Moabites, but Ruth says, look, I'm not going to leave you. I will serve your God. Your God is my God. Your people are my people. And I will serve you, and I will be with you even until death. But I will not go back to Moab. She's a young girl. She could get married again. And Naomi just couldn't get rid of her. And Naomi's bitter and saying, what has God done to me? And she's all angry. That's what she's going through. But Ruth, who has no relationship with God, only knows of his reputation, seems to have this pure faith about him. Ruth ends up in Israel. And you know the story that God hears the cry of Ruth and says, hey, you're going to be my people. And I'm going to be your God. Didn't I hear you say that? But God heard that and showed his grace to Ruth, and he marries Boaz, come on, and you know the story. And then she becomes the great-grandmother of King David. Isn't that beautiful? So God says, hey, Ruth, you're a perfect candidate for me to fulfill my plan on the planet. Through my grace, Ruth, I'm going to take you, a Moabite woman, and I'm going to include you in the genealogy of my son, the plan of salvation for the nations of the world. So not only does he prophesy of the grace, he shows us glimpses of his grace, of the lineage of the Messiah, and he includes 5 women as such as part of the genealogy of Jesus. What's that? That's the grace of God. That's the beauty of, and if God would show that grace to Ruth, would he not show that grace to you and I through the cross today? See, that's how we have to look at people. That God would look at people through the lens of grace, and that's what he's asking us to do, is to look at people through the lens of love.